Good morning, dear friend. I am here with you this beautiful morning, sitting with my cup of coffee, watching the first rays of dawn break through my window. There is something sacred about these early hours, when the world is still quiet and our hearts are open to hear from heaven. The scripture says in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Today is a completely fresh start to place God above everything else in our lives. When we seek the Lord first, everything else falls into its proper place. Imagine starting your day knowing that the Creator of the universe is personally invested in your every need. That is not wishful thinking, that is biblical truth. This morning, we are going to discover what it really means to seek God first and trust Him to provide for every need. Before we dive into this powerful journey together, I want to know where you are watching from this morning. Drop your location in the comments below. Hit that like button and make sure to subscribe, because what we are about to explore will transform how you approach every single day. Now let me share with you 3 incredible stories that will show you the power of seeking God first. Let me tell you about Sarah, a 42-year-old single mother who works as a nurse here in Ohio. Every morning at exactly 4:45, Sarah rises before her teenage daughter wakes up. She makes her way to a small corner in her kitchen where she has created her sacred space. There she opens her worn Bible to Psalm 37 verse 4. "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Sarah was not always this intentional about seeking God first. Just 1 year ago, she was a completely different woman. She was the type of person who worried about everything, tried to control every detail of her life. Back then, Sarah was working 2 jobs, taking evening classes in healthcare management, desperately trying to earn enough money to send her daughter to college. She had spreadsheets for everything, backup plans for her backup plans, and she was convinced that if she just worked harder, planned better, and saved more, she could secure her daughter's future. But the more Sarah tried to control everything, the more exhausted she became. She would lie awake at night, her mind racing with calculations. How much would tuition cost in 2 years? What if she got sick and could not work? What if the economy crashed and her savings disappeared? The weight of responsibility was crushing her spirit, even though she was doing everything right, according to the world's standards. The turning point came on a Thursday night, after a particularly brutal 12-hour shift at the hospital. Sarah sat in her car in the parking lot and just broke down crying. She had been so focused on providing for her daughter's future that she had forgotten to trust the one who holds the future in His hands. In that moment, she realized she had been placing everything else above God: her fears, her plans, her need to control outcomes. That night, Sarah made a decision that changed everything. She decided to seek God first, before her worries, before her plans, before her own understanding. This brings us to the foundation of seeking God first, found in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." You see, seeking God first is not just about saying a quick prayer in the morning. It is about a complete reorientation of our priorities. It means we place God's wisdom above our own logic, God's timing above our urgency, and God's provision above our own efforts. When we truly seek Him first, we acknowledge that He is not just involved in our lives. He is the architect of our destiny. Sarah discovered that morning what it means to delight in the Lord, and she began to see how He gives us the desires of our heart, not by granting our wishes, but by transforming our wants to align with His perfect will. But seeking God first becomes challenging when life hits us with unexpected difficulties. Let me tell you about Michael, a 38-year-old software engineer from Texas who thought he had everything figured out. Michael had what he called his perfect plan. He was on track to be promoted to senior manager within 6 months, had already started looking at a beautiful 4-bedroom house for his growing family, and had a detailed saving strategy to fund college educations for his 2 children. Michael's plan was methodical and well thought out. His wife was pregnant with their 3rd child, and he had calculated exactly how much the promotion would increase their monthly income. The new house payment would be $2,800 a month, but with his expected salary increase, they would still have plenty left over for the baby's needs and to boost their college savings fund. Everything was perfectly planned, perfectly timed, perfectly controlled. Then came the phone call that shattered everything. The company was downsizing, laying off 30% of their workforce, and Michael's name was on the list. 8 years of dedicated service, excellent performance reviews, and loyalty to the company meant nothing when corporate headquarters decided to cut costs. In one 15-minute meeting, Michael's perfect plan crumbled into dust. The weight of responsibility that fell on Michael's shoulders was overwhelming. His wife was 6 months pregnant, experiencing complications that required expensive specialists. Their current house had a mortgage of $2,800 per month, exactly what their dream house would have cost. Medical bills were piling up, and their savings account was draining faster than he ever imagined possible. Michael spent his days in the small office at home, sending out hundreds of resumes, applying to every job posting he could find, but his inbox remained frustratingly empty. But it was the nights that nearly broke him. Michael would wake up at 3 a.m, his mind immediately flooded with terrifying questions. What if he could not find another job before the baby arrived? What if they lost the house? What if he failed to provide for his family? He would lie there in the darkness, his wife sleeping peacefully beside him, carrying their unborn child, trusting him to be the provider and protector. The more Michael tried to control the situation, the more powerless he felt. He networked aggressively, attended every virtual job fair, even considered taking jobs that paid half his previous salary. But every rejection email felt like a personal failure. Every unanswered application felt like another step toward disaster. He knew Jeremiah 29 verse 11 by heart. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. But the gap between God's promises and his current reality felt impossible to bridge. Michael was caught in an internal battle between faith and fear, between wanting to trust God and feeling like he needed to solve everything himself. He believed in God's goodness, but the mounting bills and shrinking bank account made it hard to see how God's plan could possibly be better than the perfect plan he had lost. This feeling of being overwhelmed by circumstances beyond our control is something Maria understood all too well. Maria is a 44-year-old elementary school teacher from Colorado who found herself facing what felt like an impossible situation. Her mother, once a strong and independent woman who had raised Maria and her brother as a single parent, had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease 2 years earlier. Maria looked at her situation and felt like she was standing at the base of a mountain that was too high to climb. Her mother, who used to call her every Sunday with advice and encouragement, now often failed to recognize her own daughter. The woman who had once been Maria's source of strength and wisdom now needed around-the-clock care. The specialized memory care facility that could provide the best treatment cost $4,500 every month, while Maria's teaching salary was only $3,200. The financial pressure was crushing, but it was not just about money. Maria felt like she was drowning in an ocean that was too wide to cross. Her friends who used to invite her to dinner parties and weekend getaways had gradually stopped calling because Maria could never join them. She had no time for social activities, no energy for maintaining relationships, and no mental space for anything beyond work and caregiving. Her brother lived in California and contributed financially, but he had his own family and career demands. He sent checks, but could not share the daily emotional burden of watching their mother fade away. Maria had become a master of control and planning, thinking that if she could just manage everything perfectly, she could somehow make the situation bearable. She created detailed schedules for her mother's medication, researched every possible treatment and therapy, and took on private tutoring sessions 3 evenings a week to earn extra income. She had spreadsheets tracking her mother's good days and bad days, detailed budgets accounting for every penny, and backup plans for every possible scenario. But the harder Maria tried to control everything, the more exhausted and hopeless she became. Control was an illusion that was slowly destroying her. She could not control her mother's declining memory, could not control the relentless march of the disease, could not control the financial strain that was breaking her spirit. Every perfectly planned day was disrupted by her mother's confusion. Every carefully budgeted month was blown apart by unexpected medical expenses. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night, after her mother had been awake for 18 straight hours, confused and agitated, calling for her own mother, who had been dead for 20 years. Maria had barely slept in 3 days, had called in sick to work because she could not leave her mother alone, and had missed 2 tutoring sessions, losing income she desperately needed. At 2 in the morning, after finally getting her mother settled, Maria collapsed on the bathroom floor and wept. Through her tears, she cried out to God, "I cannot do this anymore. I am trying so hard, but I am failing at everything. I feel like I am drowning, and there is nobody left to save me." In that moment of complete breakdown, Maria realized that her attempts to control everything had actually separated her from the one who could truly help her carry this burden. Sometimes it takes complete exhaustion and the end of our own strength to bring us to the place where we finally surrender control and make the active decision to seek God first. This is exactly what happened to Sarah, Michael, and Maria, each in their own unique circumstances, but all arriving at the same crucial crossroads. For Sarah, the transformation began in her kitchen corner during those early morning moments with God. After months of trying to control her daughter's future through her own planning and worrying, Sarah finally placed her hands on her open Bible and whispered a prayer of complete surrender. "Jehovah Jireh, you are my provider," she prayed with tears in her eyes. "I release control over my daughter's college plans, over our financial future, over all my fears about tomorrow. This morning I choose to seek you first, not my problems, not my plans, but you." Sarah continued to pray until something shifted in her heart. The anxiety that had been her constant companion began to lift, replaced by a peace she had not felt in months. She made a decision that morning to start every day by seeking God's heart before she even thought about her to-do list. Instead of waking up and immediately calculating expenses or reviewing college applications, she would spend the first 30 minutes of each day simply being in God's presence, trusting Him with the details of their lives. Michael's moment of surrender came in his small home office, surrounded by printed resumes and rejection emails. After weeks of trying to orchestrate his own rescue through networking and applications, he finally fell to his knees and had an honest conversation with his Heavenly Father. "Jehovah Shalom, you are my peace," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "I have been trying to be the provider for my family, working in my own strength, but I surrender this entire situation to you." Michael's prayer continued as he poured out his fears and frustrations. "Show me your path, not my path. Open doors that align with your will for our family. I declare that you will open doors that no man can shut, and you will provide in ways I cannot even imagine." From that day forward, Michael committed to spending the first 30 minutes of each morning in prayer and Bible study before he sent out a single resume or made a single phone call about work. Maria's breakthrough came as she sat beside her mother's bed, watching the woman who had once been her rock sleep peacefully for the first time in days. With exhaustion weighing heavy on her shoulders, Maria finally released the burden she had been carrying alone. "Jehovah Rapha, "You are my healer," she whispered into the quiet room. "I cannot heal my mother's mind, and I cannot fix this situation, but I trust you with her condition and with our journey." Maria's prayer became a declaration of dependence on God rather than on her own abilities. "I cannot provide everything we need, but I trust you as Jehovah Jireh, my provider. Help me seek you first in this difficult season, before I seek solutions, before I make plans, before I try to control outcomes that are beyond my power." That week, Maria made the decision to join a prayer group at her local church, something she had been too busy and too proud to consider before. The power of calling on God by His covenant names cannot be understated. When we call Him Jehovah Jireh, we are acknowledging Him as our provider, the God who sees our needs and meets them according to His riches and glory. When we call Him Jehovah Shalom, we recognize Him as our peace, the one who brings calm to our chaos and rest to our restless hearts. When we call Him Jehovah Rapha, we identify Him as our healer, the one who restores not just our bodies, but our broken spirits and shattered dreams. Isaiah chapter 55 verses 8 and 9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." When we surrender our limited understanding and seek God first, we gain access to His unlimited wisdom and resources. The beautiful truth about seeking God first is that He responds with transformation that begins on the inside and then manifests in our circumstances. This is exactly what Sarah, Michael, and Maria discovered as they learned to trust God's provision rather than their own efforts. 2 weeks after Sarah began her new morning routine of seeking God first, her external circumstances had not dramatically changed, but Sarah herself was completely transformed. Instead of waking up with a knot of anxiety in her stomach, she woke up with anticipation to meet with God. Her daughter still needed college funding. Their budget was still tight, but Sarah no longer felt the crushing weight of having to figure everything out by herself. The breakthrough came in an unexpected way. Sarah's daughter mentioned that her English teacher had encouraged her to apply for a creative writing scholarship that she had never heard of. When Sarah researched it, she discovered it was a full tuition scholarship for students who demonstrated both academic excellence and financial need. Her daughter's application was beautiful, honest, and compelling. 3 months later, they received the call that she had been selected as one of only 12 recipients statewide. But the real miracle was not the scholarship, as wonderful as it was. The real miracle was the peace that surpassed all understanding that had taken residence in Sarah's heart. She no longer felt the need to control every detail of their future because she had learned to trust the God who holds their future. Even if the scholarship had not come through, Sarah knew that God had a plan and that He would provide exactly what they needed at exactly the right time. Michael's story unfolded over the course of 6 weeks. Every morning he would start his day by seeking God first, praying for wisdom, provision, and open doors. During one of these morning prayer sessions, he felt a strong impression to reach out to David, a former colleague who had left the company 2 years earlier to start his own tech startup. Michael had not spoken to David in over a year, but he could not shake the feeling that he should make that phone call. When Michael called David, he discovered that David's company had just secured major funding and was looking for a chief technology officer. The salary was lower than Michael's previous job, but the position came with significant equity in the company. More importantly, David shared the same values about family and work-life balance that had become so important to Michael during his season of unemployment. As Michael prayed about the offer, he realized that his time of job searching had not been wasted time or divine punishment. It had been divine preparation. The months of uncertainty had taught him to depend on God rather than on his career for security. The financial pressure had shown him what truly mattered, and the forced slowdown had given him time to reconnect with his family in ways that would not have been possible in his previous high-pressure job. Maria's transformation was perhaps the most gradual, but equally profound. When she joined the church prayer group, she was hesitant and guarded, afraid that people would judge her for struggling or see her as weak for needing help. Instead, she found a community of people who understood the weight of caring for aging parents who had walked similar paths of difficult circumstances. Through the prayer group, Maria met Mrs. Chen, a retired nurse whose own husband had passed away from complications related to dementia 5 years earlier. Mrs. Chen had been looking for a way to use her nursing skills in retirement and volunteered to help care for Maria's mother 3 afternoons each week, refusing to accept any payment. Mrs. Chen said it brought her joy to feel useful again and helped her process her own grief by serving another family walking a similar journey. The prayer group also connected Maria with a social worker who specialized in elder care resources. Through this connection, Maria learned about a state program that provided financial assistance for families caring for relatives with Alzheimer's disease. The paperwork was complex, and the waiting list was long, but the program would cover 60% of her mother's care costs once approved. More than the practical help, though, Maria experienced an inner healing that she had not expected. The isolation that had been suffocating her spirit was replaced by a sense of community and shared purpose. She no longer felt like she was carrying this burden alone, because she had learned to cast her cares on the one who cares for her, and he had surrounded her with people who could share the load. The inner miracle that all three experienced was the same miracle available to anyone who chooses to seek God first. It is the miracle of perspective transformation, where scarcity thinking is replaced by abundance thinking, where fear is replaced by faith, where the need to control is replaced by the ability to trust. This is the sound mind that 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 speaks of. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of sound mind. When we seek God first, He does not necessarily remove all our challenges immediately, but He transforms how we see those challenges and gives us supernatural strength to walk through them. He provides peace in the midst of storms, hope in the midst of uncertainty, and joy in the midst of difficult circumstances. As we conclude this powerful journey together this morning, I want to speak directly to your heart about the victory that is available to you today. Every obstacle that stands in your way this morning must bow to the power of our God. When you make the decision to seek Him first, before your fears, before your plans, before your own understanding, He begins to rearrange circumstances, open divine doors, and provide for you in ways you never imagined possible. Financial lack must bow to Jehovah Jireh, your provider. Health challenges must bow to Jehovah Rapha, your healer. Family problems must bow to Jehovah Shalom, your peace. Career uncertainty must bow to the God who orders your steps and opens doors that no man can shut. Relationship struggles must bow to the God who works all things together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. The key to experiencing this victory is not in trying harder or planning better, but in seeking Him first every single morning. Start your day by reading His Word before you check your phone or read the news. Pray about your specific needs and concerns, but also spend time simply worshiping Him for who He is. Declare His covenant names over your situation and choose to trust His timing rather than demanding your own. Sarah learned to seek God first before seeking solutions to her financial concerns. Michael learned to seek God's wisdom before seeking job opportunities. Maria learned to seek God's peace before seeking ways to control her difficult circumstances. In each case, seeking God first did not mean sitting passively and doing nothing, but it meant aligning their actions with His will, rather than running ahead in their own strength. Now, I want to hear from you this morning. In the comments below, tell me one specific area where you need to seek God first today. Is it your finances, your health, your family relationships, your career, or something else entirely? I want to pray for you and stand in agreement with you as you choose to trust Him above your circumstances. If this message has encouraged your heart this morning, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that God cares about their every need. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss these daily encouragement messages. Together, we are building a community of believers who choose to seek God first in every area of life. Remember, dear friend, seeking God first is not a one-time decision, but a daily choice that transforms how we approach every challenge and every opportunity. Every morning is a fresh chance to place Him above your fears, above your circumstances, above your own limited understanding. When you make this choice consistently, you will discover that He truly is Jehovah Jireh, who provides for every need, Jehovah Shalom, who gives perfect peace, and Jehovah Rapha, who heals every broken place in your life. Thank you for spending this morning with me, and thank you for being part of this community that chooses to seek God first. I am believing with you that as you apply these truths to your life, you will experience the same transformation that Sarah, Michael, and Maria discovered. Trust Him today. Seek Him first, and watch how He transforms, not just your circumstances, but your heart. Until we meet again tomorrow morning, may His perfect peace guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. May you walk in the confidence that comes from knowing you are loved, provided for, and protected by the God who never sleeps and never fails. Amen.